Today we're going to unpack a really fascinating story. It's all about Gul Ahmed Energy and how one of Pakistan's oldest industrial groups first stepped in to solve a massive energy crisis and now is totally reinventing itself to lead the way into a green future.
Right? It's a great question. How does a company famous for fabrics end up powering one of the biggest cities in the world? Well, let's dive into that, because the answer is this incredible story of necessity, smart thinking, and a major strategic pivot. We're going to trace their whole journey, from day one to their big new vision.
So to really understand this, you got to go back in time with me, back to the 1990s. Pakistan's industrial heart, the massive city of Karachi, was facing a problem so big it threatened to bring everything to a grinding halt.
I mean, just try to picture it. The country's economic engine was basically running on empty. We're talking constant, crippling blackouts. The very industries that were the backbone of the economy, like textile mills, were being forced to shut down for hours every day. The government knew this couldn't go on. They needed a totally new plan, and they needed it yesterday.
And you know, sometimes a crisis is just what you need to spark real change. This power shortage led to a game-changing policy in 1994. It basically threw open the doors for private companies to get into the power generation business for the first time. And the government's whole new strategy was built around this idea, the Independent Power Producer, or IPP. Now, this was a huge shift. Before, the state pretty much built and ran everything. Now, they were sending out an invitation, hey, private sector, come on in. Build your own power plants, own them, operate them, and sell us the electricity. So who was one of the very first to raise their hand and say, we're in? The Gul Ahmed Group. Now, if you're from Pakistan, you know that name. It means textiles, fabrics, fashion, not power plants. But they saw the need and created a brand new company, Gul Ahmed Energy, specifically to take on this challenge. And there's the key date, 1994. This is when an industrial visionary, the late Mr. Iqbal Ali Muhammad, made a really bold move. He took all the know-how from running a massive industrial group and jumped headfirst into a totally different world to help power his country.
Okay, so this new company is up and running, but how did it actually help stabilize the city's power grid? Let's pop the hood and see what this thing actually looked like.
This is the heart and soul of their original operation, right in Karachi's Karangi industrial area. And the tech they chose here? Absolutely crucial. Those 9 Wurzel engines, they were like the tanks of the engine world. Super reliable, total workhorses. And they ran on heavy fuel oil, which back then was a cheap and easy-to-get fuel source. It was the perfect setup for what the industry needed most: stable, dependable power, day in and day out.
Of course, all that heavy metal is useless without the right people. Running a power plant 24/7 is a huge deal. You need a rock-solid chain of command, a clear structure from the very top all the way down to the operators on the floor, all working in sync to make sure the lights never go out. So for almost 20 years, that thermal plant was an absolute hero for Karachi's industry. But then, the world started to change. The whole conversation around energy, climate, and sustainability began to get a lot louder, in Pakistan and everywhere else. A new future was calling.
And this right here, this quote from the company itself, just says it all, doesn't it? This isn't just some nice-sounding corporate slogan. This is a declaration. They are literally saying, we're going to lead the change. It signals a massive pivot from the old way of doing things to being a pathfinder for a new, greener one. And this timeline just lays it out so clearly. You can see the 2 distinct eras of the company. Chapter 1 begins in 1997 when the thermal plant comes online. Then, fast forward almost 2 decades to 2016, and boom, a whole new chapter starts with Gul Ahmed Electric, a company built from the ground up to focus on wind and renewables.
So, talk is one thing, but action is another. How did the group actually start making this new green vision a reality? Let's check out the Pathfinder side of the story and see what their new energy mix looks like.
This chart really tells the story. By adding renewable projects to their portfolio, the group's total power output jumped by 100 megawatts. That is a huge commitment. We're talking about adding enough new, clean energy to power tens of thousands of homes. That's not just dipping a toe in the water, that's a full-on cannonball.
And look, this wasn't just some small, one-off project to look good. This was a really strategic push into the big pillars of clean energy: wind power, solar, even hybrid solutions. It shows a real fundamental shift in their mission toward becoming a truly responsible corporation for the environment.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, the story of Gul Ahmed Energy is just a fantastic example of evolution.
It shows how a company that was born to solve one kind of crisis can adapt, change, and become a leader in a completely new era.
When you boil it all down, they're building this amazing dual legacy. On one hand, as a pioneer, they kept a critical economic hub running and showed the whole country that the private power model could actually work. And now, as a pathfinder, they're helping steer the entire nation toward clean energy, showing other big traditional industries how it can be done.
The journey of Gul Ahmed Energy, from a thermal powerhouse to a green pathfinder, seems to scream that the answer is yes. And it leaves us with this huge question, not just for Pakistan, but for the whole world. Can the industrial giants that built yesterday's world become the architects of tomorrow's sustainable future? It's something to think about.